Canto 27. The death of Trisirás. But Trisirás, 471, a chieftain dread marked Khara as he onward sped, and met his car and cried, to stay the giant from the purposed fray, "Mine be the charge, let me attack, and turn thee from the contest back. Let me go forth, and thou shalt see the strong-armed Ráma slain by me. True are the words I speak, my lord, I swear it as I touch my sword, that I this Ráma's blood will spill, whom every giant's hand should kill. This Ráma will I slay, or he in battle fray shall conquer me. Restrain thy spirit, check thy car, and view the combat from afar. Thou, joying o'er the prostrate foe, to Janisthan again shalt go, or, if I fall in battle's chance, against my conqueror advance." Thus Trisirás for death who yearned, and Khara from the conflict turned, "Go forth to battle," Khara cried, and toward his foe the giant hied. Borne on a car of glittering hue which harnessed coursers fleetly drew, like some huge hill with triple peak, he onward rushed the prince to seek. Still, like a big cloud, sending out his arrowy rain with many a shout like the deep sullen roars that come discordant from a moistened drum. But Raghu's son, whose watchful eye beheld the demon rushing nigh, from the great bow he raised and bent a shower of shafts to meet him sent. Wild grew the fight and wilder, yet as fiend and man in combat met, as when in some dark woods retreat an elephant and a lion meet. The giant bent his bow, and true to Rama's brow 3 arrows flew. Then, raging as he felt the stroke, these words in anger Rama spoke, "Heroic chief, is such the power of fiends who rove at midnight hour? Soft as the touch of flowers, I feel the gentle blows thine arrows deal. Receive in turn my shafts, and know what arrows fly from Rama's bow." Thus as he spoke his wrath grew hot, and twice 7 deadly shafts he shot, which, dire as serpent's deadly fang, straight to the giant's bosom sprang. 4 arrows more, each shaped to deal a mortal wound with barbed steel, the glorious hero shot, and slew the 4 good steeds the car that drew. 8 other shafts flew straight and fleet, and hurled the driver from his seat, and in the dust the banner laid that proudly o'er the chariot played. Then, as the fiend prepared to bound forth from his useless car to ground, the hero smote him to the heart, and numbed his arm with deadly smart. Again the chieftain, peerless-souled, sent forth 3 rapid darts, and rolled with each keen arrow, deftly sped, low in the dust a monstrous head. Then yielding to each deadly stroke, forth spouting streams of blood and smoke, the headless trunk bedrenched with gore fell to the ground and moved no more. The fiends who yet were left with life, routed and crushed in battle strife, to Khara's side, like trembling deer scared by the hunter, fled in fear. King Khara saw with furious eye his scattered giants turn and fly. Then, rallying his broken train at Raghu's son, he drove amain, like Rahu, 472, when his deadly might comes rushing on the Lord of Night. Canto 28. Khara dismounted. But when he turned his eye where bled both Trisirás and du acute, sh, a letter 1e47 dead, fear o'er the giant's spirit came of Rama's might which naught could tame. He saw his savage legions, those whose force no creature dared oppose. He saw the leader of his train by Rama's single prowess slain. With burning grief, he marked the few still left him of his giant crew. As Namuchi, 473 on Indra, so rushed the dread demon on his foe. His mighty bow the monster strained, and angrily on Rama rained his mortal arrows in a flood like serpent fangs, athirst for blood. Skilled in the bowman's warlike art, he plied the string and poised the dart. Here, on his car, and there, he rode, and passages of battle showed, while all the skiey regions grew dark with his arrows as they flew. Then Rama seized his ponderous bow, and straight the heaven was all aglow with shafts whose stroke no life might bear, that filled with flash and flame the air, thick as the blinding torrents sent down from Parjanyas, 474, firmament. In space itself no space remained, but all was filled with arrows rained incessantly from each great bow wielded by Rama and his foe. As thus in furious combat, wrought to mortal hate, the warriors fought, the sun himself grew faint and pale, obscured behind that arrowy veil. As when beneath the driver's steel an elephant is forced to kneel, so from the hard and pointed head of many an arrow Rama bled. High on his car, the giant rose, prepared in deadly strife to close, and all the spirits saw him stand like Yama with his noose in hand. For Khara deemed in senseless pride that he, beneath whose hand had died the giant legions, failed at length slow, sinking with exhausted strength. But Rama, like a lion, when a trembling deer comes nigh his den, feared not the demon mad with hate, of lion might and lion gait. Then in his lofty car that glowed with sun-like brilliance Khara rode at Rama. Madly on he came like a poor moth that seeks the flame. His archer skill the fiend displayed, and at the place where Rama laid his hand, an arrow cleft into the mighty bow the hero drew. 7 arrows by the giant sent, bright as the bolts of Indra, rent their way through mail and harness joints, and pierced him with their iron points. On Rama, hero unsurpassed, 1,000 shafts smote thick and fast, while as each missile struck, rang out the giant's awful battle shout. His knotted arrows pierced and tore the sun-bright mail the hero wore, till, band and buckle rent away, glittering on the ground it lay. Then pierced in shoulder, breast, and side, till every limb with blood was dyed. The chieftain in majestic ire shone glorious as the smokeless fire. Then loud and long the war cry rose of Rama, terror of his foes, as, on the giant's death intent, a ponderous bow he strung and bent, Lord Vish letter 1E47 US own, of wondrous size, Agastya gave the heavenly prize. Then rushing on the demon foe, he raised on high that mighty bow, and with his well-wrought shafts, whereon bright gold between the feathers shone, he struck the pennon fluttering o'er the chariot, and it waved no more. That glorious flag, whose every fold was rich with blazonry and gold, fell as the sun himself by all the gods, decree might earthward fall. From wrathful Khara's hand, whose art well knew each vulnerable part, 4 keenly piercing arrows flew, and blood in Rama's bosom drew, with every limb distained with gore from deadly shafts which rent and tore from Khara's clanging bowstring shots. The prince's wrath waxed wondrous hot. His hand upon his bow that best of mighty archers firmly pressed, and from the well-drawn bowstring, true each to its mark, 6 arrows flew. 1 quivered in the giant's head, with 2 his brawny shoulders bled, 3, with the crescent heads they bore, deep in his breast a passage tore. 13, to which the stone had lent the keenest point, were swiftly sent on the fierce giant, every one destructive, gleaming like the sun. With 4 the dappled steeds he slew, 1 cleft the chariot yoke in 2, 1, in the heat of battle sped, smote from the neck the driver's head. The poles were rent apart by 3, 2 broke the splintered axle tree. Then from the hand of Rama, while across his lips there came a smile, the 12th, like thunderbolt impelled, cut the great hand and bow it held. Then, scarce by Indra's self surpassed, he pierced the giant with the last. The bow he trusted cleft in twain, his driver and his horses slain, down sprang the giant, mace in hand, on foot against the foe to stand. The gods and saints in bright array close, gathered in the skies, the princes might in battle fray beheld with joyful eyes. Uprising from their golden seats, their hands in honor raised, they looked on Rama's noble feats, and blessed him as they praised. Canto 29. Khara's defeat. When Rama saw the giant nigh, on foot, alone, with mace reared high, in mild reproof at first he spoke, then forth his threatening anger broke. Thou with the host, 'twas thine to lead, with elephant and car and steed, haste wrought an act of sin and shame, an act which all who live must blame. Know that the wretch whose evil mind joys in the grief of humankind, though the 3 worlds confess him Lord, must perish dreaded and abhorred. Nigh trover, when a villain's deeds distress the world he little heeds, each hand is armed his life to take, and crush him like a deadly snake. The end is near when men begin through greed, or lust a life of sin, and as a Brahman's dame, unwise, eats of the fallen hail, 475, and dies. Thy hand has slain the pure and good. The hermit saints of D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K wood, of holy life, the heirs of bliss, and thou shalt reap the fruit of this. Not long shall they whose cruel breasts joy in the sin, the world detests, retain their guilty power and pride, but fade like trees whose roots are dried. Yes, as the seasons come and go, each tree its kindly fruit must show, and sinners reap in fitting time the harvest of each earlier crime. As those must surely die who eat unwittingly of poisoned meat, they too whose lives in sin are spent receive ere long the punishment. And know, thou rover of the night, that I, a king, am sent to smite the wicked down, who court the hate of men whose laws they violate. This day my vengeful hand shall send shafts bright with gold to tear and rend, and pass with fury through thy breast as serpents pierce an emmet's nest. Thou with thy host this day shalt be among the dead below, and see the saints beneath thy hand who bled, whose flesh thy cruel maw has fed. They, glorious on their seats of gold, their slayer shall in hell behold. Fight with all strength thou callest thine, mean scion of ignoble line. Still, like the palm tree's fruit, this day my shafts thy head in dust shall lay. Such were the words that Rama said. Then Khara's eyes with wrath glowed red, who, maddened by the rage that burned within him, with a smile returned. Thou Dasaratha's son, hast slain the meaner giants of my train, and canst thou idly vaunt thy might, and claim the praise not thine by right? Not thus in self-laudation rave the truly great, the nobly brave. No empty boasts like thine disgrace the foremost of the human race. The mean of soul, unknown to fame, who taint their warrior race with shame, thus speak in senseless pride as thou, O Raghu's son, hast boasted now. What hero, when the war cry rings, vaunts the high race from which he springs, or seeks, when warriors meet and die, his own descent to glorify? Weakness and folly show confessed in every vaunt thou utterest, as when the flames fed high with grass detect the simulating brass. Dost thou not see me standing here armed with the mighty mace I rear, firm as an earth-upholding hill whose summit veins of metal fill? Lo, here I stand before thy face to slay thee with my murderous mace, as death, the universal lord, stands threatening with his fatal cord. Enough of this. Much more remains that should be said, but time constrains. Ere to his rest the sun descend, and shades of night the combat end, the twice 7,000 of my band who fell beneath thy bloody hand shall have their tears all wiped away and triumph in thy fall today. He spoke, and loosing from his hold, his mighty mace ringed round with gold, like some red bolt alive with fire hurled it at Rama, mad with ire. The ponderous mace, which Khara threw, sent fiery flashes as it flew. Trees, shrubs were scorched beneath the blast, as onward to its aim it passed. But Rama, watching as it sped dire as his noose who rules the dead, cleft it with arrows as it came on rushing with a hiss and flame. Its fury spent and burnt away. Harmless upon the ground, it lay like a great snake in furious mood, by herbs of numbing power subdued. Canto 30. Khara's death. When Rama, pride of Raghu's race, virtue's dear son, had cleft the mace, thus with superior smile the best of chiefs the furious fiend addressed. Thou, worst of giant blood, at length haste shown the utmost of thy strength, and forced by greater might to bow, thy vaunting threats are idle now. My shafts have cut thy club in twain, useless it lies upon the plain, and all thy pride and haughty trust lie with it levelled in the dust. The words that thou hast said today, that thou wouldst wipe the tears away of all the giants I have slain, my deeds shall render void and vain. Thou meanest of the giants, breed, evil in thought and word and deed, my hand shall take that life of thine as G-A-R-U letter 1E0D. 476, seized the juice divine. Thou, rent by shafts, this day shalt die. Low on the ground thy corse shall lie, and bubbles from the cloven neck with froth and blood thy skin shall deck. With dust and mire all rudely dyed, thy torn arms lying by thy side, while streams of blood each limb shall steep. Thou on earth's breast shalt take thy sleep like a fond lover when he strains the beauty whom at length he gains. Now when thy heavy eyelids close forever in thy deep repose, again shall D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K forest be safe refuge for the devotee. Thou slain, and all thy race who held the realm of Janisthan expelled, again shall happy hermits rove, fearing no danger, through the grove. Within those bounds, their brethren slain, no giant shall this day remain, but all shall fly with many a tear and fearing, rid the saints of fear. This bitter day shall misery bring on all the race that calls thee king. Fierce as their lord, thy dames shall know, bereft of joys, the taste of woe. Base, cruel wretch of evil mind, plaguer of Brahmins and mankind, with trembling hands each devotee feeds holy fires in dread of thee. Thus with wild fury unrepressed, Raghu's brave son the fiend addressed, and Khara, as his wrath grew high, thus thundered forth his fierce reply. By senseless pride to madness wrought, by danger girt thou fearest not, nor heedest, numbered with the dead, what thou shouldst say and leave unsaid. When fate's tremendous coils enfold the captive in resistless hold, he knows not right from wrong, each sense numbed by that deadly influence. He spoke, and when his speech was done, bent his fierce brows on Raghu's son. With eager eyes, he looked around if lethal arms might yet be found. Not far away and full in view a sal tree, towering upward grew. His lips in mighty strain compressed, he tore it up with root and crest, with huge arms waved it o'er his head, and hurled it shouting, "Thou art dead." But Rama, unsurpassed in might, stayed with his shafts its onward flight, and furious longing seized his soul the giant in the dust to roll. Great drops of sweat each limb bedewed, his red eyes showed his wrathful mood. 1,000 arrows, swiftly sent, the giant's bosom tore and rent. From every gash his body showed the blood in foamy torrents flowed, as springing from their caverns leap swift rivers down the mountain steep. When Khara felt each deadened power yielding beneath that murderous shower, he charged, infuriate with the scent of blood, in dire bewilderment. But Rama watched, with ready bow, the onset of his bleeding foe, and ere the monster reached him, drew backward in haste a yard or two. Then from his side a shaft he took whose mortal stroke no life might brook. Of peerless might, it bore the name of Brahma's staff, and glowed with flame. Lord Indra, ruler of the skies, himself had given the glorious prize. His bow the virtuous hero drew, and at the fiend the arrow flew. Hissing and roaring like the blast of tempest through the air it passed, and fixed, by Rama's vigor sped, in the foe's breast its pointed head. Then fell the fiend, the quenchless flame burnt furious in his wounded frame. So burnt by Rudra Andhak, 477, fell in execute Vetar a letter 147y a s silvery del. So Namachi and Vritra, 478, died by steaming bolts that tamed their pride. So Bala, 479, fell by lightning sent by him who rules the firmament. Then all the gods in close array with the bright hosts who sing and play, filled full of rapture and amaze, sang hymns of joy in Rama's praise, beat their celestial drums, and shed rain of sweet flowers upon his head. For 3 short hours had scarcely flown, and by his pointed shafts o'erthrown the twice 7,000 fiends, whose will could change their shapes, in death were still, with Trisirás and Duacute sh a letter 147 slain, and Khara, leader of the train. "O wondrous deed," the bards began, "the noblest deed of virtuous man. Heroic strength that stood alone, and firmness e'en as Vish letter 147 us own." Thus having sung, the shining train turned to their heavenly homes again. Then the high saints of royal race and loftiest station sought the place, and by the great Agastya led, with reverence to Rama said, "For this, Lord Indra, glorious sire, majestic as the burning fire, who crushes cities in his rage, sought Sarabhanga's hermitage. Thou wast, this great design to aid, led by the saints to seek this shade, and with thy mighty arm to kill the giants who delight in ill. Thou Dasaratha's noble son, the battle for our sake hast won, and saints in D, a letter 147 letter 10d, a ks wild, who live their days to holy tasks can give. Forth from the mountain cavern came the hero L a kshm, a letter 147 with the dame. And rapture beaming from his face, resought the hermit dwelling place. Then, when the mighty saints had paid due honor for the victor's aid, the glorious Rama honored too by L a kshm, a letter 147 to his cot withdrew. When Sítá looked upon her lord, his foeman slain, the saints restored, in pride and rapture uncontrolled she clasped him in her loving hold. On the dead fiends her glances fell, she saw her lord alive and well, victorious after toil and pain, and Janak's child was blessed again. Once more with new delight her tender arms, she threw round Rama, whose victorious might had crushed the demon crew. Then as his grateful reverence paid each saint of lofty soul, o'er her sweet face, all fears allayed, the flush of transport stole. Canto 31. Rávan. But of the host of giants one, Accompany, from the field had run and sped to Lanka, 480, to relate in Rav, a letter 147 ere the demon's fate. King, many a giant from the shade of Janisthan in death is laid. Khara the chief is slain, and I could scarcely from the battle fly. Fierce anger, as the monarch heard, inflamed his look, his bosom stirred, and while with scorching glance he eyed the messenger, he thus replied, "What fool has dared, already dead, strike Janisthan, the general dread? Who is the wretch shall vainly try in earth, heaven, hell, from me to fly? V a I execute R a V a letter 1E47. 481, Indra, VISH letter 1E47 U, he who rules the dead, must reverence me, for not the mightiest lord of these can brave my will and live at ease. Fate finds in me a mightier fate to burn the fires that devastate. With unresisted influence, can force e'en death himself to die, with all surpassing might restrain the fury of the hurricane, and burn in my tremendous ire the glory of the sun and fire." As thus the fiend's hot fury blazed, his trembling hands Accompany raised, and with a voice which fear made weak, permission craved his tale to speak. King Rav, a letter 1E47 gave the leave he sought, and bade him tell the news he brought. His courage rose, his voice grew bold, and thus his mournful tale he told. A prince with mighty shoulders, sprung from Dasaratha, brave and young, with arms well molded, bears the name of Rama with a lion's frame. Renowned, successful, dark of limb, earth has no warrior equals him. He fought in Janisthan and slew Du acute, SH, a letter 1E47 the fierce, and Khara too. Rav, a letter 1E47, the giant's royal chief. Received Accompany's tale of grief. Then, panting like an angry snake, these words in turn the monarch spake. "Say quick, did Rama seek the shade of Janisthan with Indra's aid, and all the dwellers in the skies to back his hardy enterprise?" Accompany heard, and straight obeyed his master, and his answer made. Then thus the power, and mighty told of Raghu's son the lofty souled. "Best is that chief of all who know with deftest art to draw the bow. His are strange arms of heavenly might, and none can match him in the fight. His brother LAKSHM, a letter 1E47 brave as he, fair as the rounded moon to see, with eyes like night and voice that comes deep as the roll of beaten drums, by Rama's side stands ever near, like wind that aids the flame's career. That glorious chief, that prince of kings on Janisthan this ruin brings. No gods were there, dismiss the thought no heavenly legions came and fought. His swift-winged arrows Rama sent, each bright with gold and ornament. To serpents many faced they turned, the giant hosts they ate and burned. Where'er these fled in wild dismay, Rama was there to strike and slay. By him, O king of high estate, is Janisthan left desolate." Accompany ceased. In angry pride the giant monarch thus replied, "To Janisthan myself will go and lay these daring brothers low." Thus spoke the king in furious mood. Accompany then his speech renewed. "O listen while I tell at length the terror of the hero's strength. No power can check, no might can tame Rama, a chief of noblest fame. He with resistless shafts can stay the torrent foaming on its way. Sky, stars, and constellations, all to his fierce might would yield and fall. His power could earth itself uphold down sinking as it sank of old. 482, or all its plains and cities drown, breaking the wild sea's barrier down, crush the great deep's impetuous will, or bid the furious wind be still. He glorious in his high estate the triple world could devastate, and there, supreme of men, could place his creatures of a newborn race. Never can mighty Rama be o'ercome in fight, my king, by thee. Thy giant host the day might win from him, if heaven were gained by sin. If gods were joined with demons, they could ne'er, I ween, that hero slay, but guile may kill the wondrous man. Attend while I disclose the plan. His wife, above all women graced, is Sítá of the dainty waist, with limbs to fair proportion true, and a soft skin of lustrous hue, round neck and arm-rich gems are twined. She is the gem of womankind. With her no bright Gandharvi vies, no nymph or goddess in the skies, and none to rival her would dare, mid dames who part the long black hair. That hero in the wood beguile, and steal his lovely spouse the while. Reft of his darling wife, be sure, brief days the mourner will endure. With flattering hope of triumph moved the giant king that plan approved, pondered the counsel in his breast, and then Accompany thus addressed. Forth in my car I go at morn, none but the driver with me born, and this fair Sítá will I bring back to my city triumphing. Forth in his car by asses drawn the giant monarch sped at dawn, bright as the sun. The chariot cast light through the sky as on it passed. Then high in air, that best of cars traversed the path of lunar stars, sending a fitful radiance pale as moonbeams shot through cloudy veil. Far on his airy way he flew, near T a letter 10 D a Kaikeyí a S, 483, grove he drew. Maricha welcomed him, and placed before him food which giants taste, with honor led him to a seat, and brought him water for his feet, and then with timely words addressed such question to his royal guest. Speak, is it well with thee whose sway the giant multitudes obey? I know not all, and ask in fear the cause, O king, why thou art here. Rava, the giant's mighty king, heard wise Maricha's questioning, and told with ready answer, taught in eloquence, the cause he sought. My guards, the bravest of my band, are slain by Rama's vigorous hand, and Janisthan, that feared no hate of foes, is rendered desolate. Come, aid me in the plan, I lay to steal the conqueror's wife away. Maricha heard the king's request, and thus the giant chief addressed. What foe in friendly guise is he who spoke of Sítá's name to thee? Who is the wretch whose thought would bring destruction on the giants, king? Whose is the evil counsel, say, that bids thee bear his wife away, and careless of thy life provoke earth's loftiest with threatening stroke? A foe is he who dared suggest this hopeless folly to thy breast, whose ill advice would bid thee draw the venomed fang from serpent's jaw. By whose unwise suggestion led wilt thou the path of ruin tread? Whence falls the blow that would destroy thy gentle sleep of ease and joy? Like some wild elephant is he that rears his trunk on high, lord of an ancient pedigree, huge tusks, and furious eye. Rav a letter 1E47, no rover of the night with bravest heart can brook, met in the front of deadly fight, on Raghu's son to look. The giant hosts were brave and strong, good at the bow and spear, but Rama slew the rooted throng, a lion mid the deer. No lion's tooth can match his sword, or arrows fiercely shot, he sleeps, the lion lord, be wise and rouse him not. O monarch of the giants, well upon my counsel think, lest thou forever in the hell of Rama's vengeance sink. A hell, where deadly shafts are sent from his tremendous bow, while his great arms all flight prevent, like deepest mire below, where the wild floods of battle rave above the foeman's head, and each with many a feathery wave of shafts is garlanded. Oh, quench the flames that in thy breast with raging fury burn, and pacified and self-possessed to Lanka's town return. Rest thou in her imperial bowers with thine own wives' content, and in the wood let Rama's hours with Sítá still be spent. The lord of Lanka's isle obeyed the counsel, and his purpose stayed. Borne on his car he parted thence, and gained his royal residence. Canto 32. Rávan roused. But execute RP a letter 1E47 a KH saw the plains spread with the 14,000 slain, doers of cruel deeds o'erthrown by Rama's mighty arm alone. Add Trisirás and SH a letter 1E47 dead, and Khara with the hosts they led. Their death she saw, and mad with pain, roared like a cloud that brings the rain, and fled in anger and dismay to Lanka, seat of Rav a letter 1E47 sway. There on a throne of royal state exalted sat the potentate, begirt with counselor and peer, like Indra with the storm gods near. Bright as the sun's full splendor shone the glorious throne he sat upon, as when the blazing fire is red upon a golden altar fed. Wide gaped his mouth at every breath, tremendous as the jaws of death. With him high saints of lofty thought, Gandharva's gods, had vainly fought. The wounds were on his body, yet from wars where gods and demons met. And scars still marked his ample chest by fierce Airavats, 484 tusk impressed. A score of arms, 10 necks, had he, his royal gear was brave to see. His massive form displayed each sign that marks the heir of kingly line. In stature like a mountain height, his arms were strong, his teeth were white, and all his frame of massive mold seemed lazulite adorned with gold. 100 seams impressed each limp, where VISH letter 1E47 US arm had wounded him, and chest and shoulder bore the print of sword and spear and arrow dint, where every god had struck a blow in battle with the giant foe. His might to wildest rage could wake the sea whose faith naught else can shake, hurl towering mountains to the earth, and crush e'en foes of heavenly birth. The bonds of law and right he spurned, to others, wives his fancy turned. Celestial arms he used in fight, and love to mar each holy rite. He went to Bhagavati's town, 485, where Vasuki was beaten down, and stole, victorious in the strife, Lord Takshaka's beloved wife. Kailas's lofty crest he sought, and when in vain Kuvara fought, stole pushback thence, the car that through the air, as willed the master, flew. Impelled by furious anger, he spoiled Nandan's, 486, Shade and Nalini, and Chaitraratha's heavenly grove, the haunts where gods delight to rove. Tall as a hill that cleaves the sky, he raised his mighty arms on high to check the blessed moon, and stay the rising of the Lord of Day. 10,000 years the giant spent on dire austerities intent, and of his heads an offering, laid before the self-existent, made. No god or fiend his life could take, Gandharva, goblin, bird, or snake, safe from all fears of death, except from human arm, that life was kept. Oft when the priests began to raise their consecrating hymns of praise, he spoiled the soma's sacred juice poured forth by them in solemn use. The sacrifice his hands o'erthrew, and cruelly the Brahmins slew. His was a heart that naught could melt, joying in woes which others felt. She saw the ruthless monster there, dread of the worlds, unused to spare. In robes of heavenly texture dressed, celestial wreaths adorned his breast. He sat a shape of terror, like destruction ere the worlds it strike. She saw him in his pride of place, the joy of old Pulistia's, 487 race, begirt by counselor and peer, Rav a letter 1E47, the foeman's mortal fear, and terror in her features shone, the giantess approached the throne. Then execute uacute RP, a letter 1E47, a KH a bearing, yet each deeply printed trace where the great-hearted chief had set a mark upon her face, impelled by terror and desire. Still fierce, no longer bold, to Rav a letter 1E47 of the eyes of fire her tale, infuriate, told. Canto 33. Súrpanakhā's speech. Burning with anger, in the ring of counselors who girt their king, to Rav a letter 1E47, Ravana of man, with bitter words she thus began. Wilt thou, absorbed in pleasure, still pursue unchecked thy selfish will, nor turn thy heedless eyes to see the coming fate which threatens thee? The king who days and hours employs in base pursuit of vulgar joys, must in his people's sight be vile as fire that smokes on funeral pile. He who, when duty calls him, spares no time for thought of royal cares, must with his realm and people all involved in fatal ruin fall. As elephants in terror shrink from the false river's miry brink, thus subjects from a monarch flee, whose face their eyes may seldom see, who spends the hours for toil, ordained in evil courses unrestrained. He who neglects to guard and hold his kingdom by himself controlled, sinks nameless like a hill whose head is buried in the ocean's bed. Thy foes are calm and strong and wise fiends, gods and warriors of the skies. How, heedless, wicked, weak, and vain, wilt thou thy kingly state maintain? Thou, lord of giants, void of sense, slave of each changing influence, heedless of all that makes a king, destruction on thy head wilt bring. O conquering chief, the prince who boasts of treasury and rule and hosts, by others led, though lord of all, is meaner than the lowest thrall. For this are monarchs said to be long-sighted, having power to see things far away by faithful eyes of messengers and loyal spies. But aid from such thou wilt not seek, thy counselors are blind and weak, or thou from these hadst surely known thy legions and thy realm o'erthrown. No, twice 7,000, fierce in might, are slain by Rama in the fight, and they, the giant host who led Khara and Duacute sh a letter 1E47, both are dead. No, Rama with his conquering arm has freed the saints from dread of harm, has smitten Janisthan and made asylum safe in D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a KS shade. Enslaved and dull, of blinded sight, intoxicate with vain delight, thou closest still thy heedless eyes to dangers in thy realm that rise. A king besotted, mean, unkind, of niggard hand and slavish mind, will find no faithful followers, heed their master in his hour of need. The friend on whom he most relies, in danger, from a monarch flies, imperious in his high estate, conceited, proud, and passionate. Who ne'er to state affairs attends with wholesome fear, when woe impends most weak and worthless as the grass, soon from his sway the realm will pass. For rotting wood a use is found, for clods and dust that strew the ground. But when a king has lost his sway, useless he falls and sinks for aye. As raiment by another worn, as faded garland crushed and torn, so is unthroned the proudest king, though mighty once, a useless thing. But he who every sense subdues, and each event observant views, rewards the good and keeps from wrong, shall reign secure and flourish long. Though lulled in sleep his senses lie, he watches with a ruler's eye, untouched by favor, ire, and hate, and him the people celebrate. O weak of mind, without a trace of virtues that a king should grace, who hast not learnt from watchful spy that low in death the giants lie. Scorner of others, but enchained by every base desire, by the each duty is disdained which time and place require. Soon wilt thou, if thou canst not learn, ere yet it be too late, the good from evil to discern, fall from thy high estate. As thus she ceased not to upbraid the king with cutting speech, and every fault to view displayed, naming and marking each, the monarch of the sons of night, of wealth and power possessed, and proud of his imperial might, long pondered in his breast. Canto 34. Súrpanakhā's speech. Then forth the giant's fury broke as execute you acute RP, a letter 1E47, a Khā harshly spoke. Girt by his lords the demon king looked on her, fiercely questioning. Who is this Ráma, whence and where? His form, his might, his deeds declare. His wandering steps what purpose led to D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K forest, hard to tread. What arms are his that he could smite in fray the rovers of the night? And Trisirás and Du acute, SH, a letter 1E47 lay low on the earth, and Khara slay. Tell all, my sister, and declare who maimed thee thus, of form most fair. Thus by the giant king addressed, while burnt her fury unrepressed, the giantess declared at length the hero's form and deeds and strength. Long are his arms and large his eyes, a black deer's skin his dress supplies. King Dasaratha's son is he, fair as Kandarpa's self to see. Adorned with many a golden band, a bow, like Indra's, arms his hand, and shoots a flood of arrows fierce as venomed snakes to burn and pierce. I looked, but never saw his mighty hand the bowstring draw that sent the deadly arrows out, while rang through air his battle shout. I looked, and saw too well how with that hail the giants fell, as falls to earth the golden grain, struck by the blows of Indra's rain. He fought, and twice 7,000, all terrific giants, strong and tall, fell by the pointed shafts o'erthrown which Ráma shot on foot, alone. 3 little hours had scarcely fled. Khara and Du acute, SH, a letter 1E47 both were dead, and he had freed the saints and made asylum sure in D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a KS shade. Me of his grace the victor spared, or I the giant's fate had shared. The high-souled Ráma would not deign his hand with woman's blood to stain. The glorious L, a KSHM, a letter 1E47, justly dear, in gifts and warrior might his peer, serves his great brother with the whole devotion of his faithful soul. Impetuous victor, bold and wise, first in each hardy enterprise, still ready by his side to stand, a second self or better hand. And Ráma has a large-eyed spouse, pure as the moon her cheek and brows, dearer than life in Ráma's sight, whose happiness is her delight. With beauteous hair, and knows the dame from head to foot, has naught to blame. She shines the wood's bright goddess, queen of beauty with her noble mien. First in the ranks of women placed, is Sítá of the dainty waist. In all the earth mine eyes have ne'er seen female form so sweetly fair. Goddess nor nymph can vie with her, nor bride of heavenly chorister. He who might call this dame his own, her eager arms about him thrown, would live more blessed in Sítá's love than Indra in the world above. She, peerless in her form and face, and rich in every gentle grace, is worthy bride, O king, for thee, as thou art meet her lord to be. Even I, will bring thee bride in triumph to her lover's side, this beauty fairer than the rest, with rounded limb and heaving breast. Each wound upon my face, I owe to cruel L a KSHM, a letter 1E47 savage blow. But thou, O brother, shalt survey her moon-like loveliness today, and Kama's piercing shafts shall smite thine amorous bosom at the sight. If in thy breast the longing rise to make thine own the beauteous prize, up, let thy better foot begin the journey and the treasure win. If, giant lord, thy favoring eyes regard the plan which I advise, up, cast all fear and doubt away, and execute the words I say. Come, giant king, this treasure seek, for thou art strong and they are weak. Let Sítá of the faultless frame be borne away, and be thy dame. Thy host in Janus-thon, who dwelt forth to the battle hide. And by the shafts which Ráma dealt they perished in their pride. Duacute sh, a letter 1e47, and Khara breathe no more, laid low upon the plain. Arise, and ere the day be o'er take vengeance for the slain. Canto 35. Rávan's journey. When Rav, a letter 1e47, by her fury spurred, that terrible advice had heard, he bade his nobles quit his side, and to the work his thought applied. He turned his anxious mind to scan on every side the hardy plan. The gain against the risk he laid, each hope and fear with care surveyed, and in his heart at length decreed to try performance of the deed. Then steady in his dire intent, the giant to the courtyard went. There to his charioteer he cried, "Bring forth the car whereon I ride." I ready at his master's word the charioteer the order heard, and yoked with active zeal the best of chariots at his lord's behest. Asses with heads of goblins drew that wondrous car where'er it flew. Obedient to the will it rolled, adorned with gems and glistering gold. Then mounting, with a roar as loud as thunder from a laboring cloud, the mighty monarch to the tide of ocean, lord of rivers, hied. White was the shade above him spread, white treacherous waved around his head, and he with gold and jewels bright shone like the glossy lazulite. 10 necks and 20 arms had he, his royal gear was good to see. The heavenly gods' insatiate foe, who made the blood of hermits flow, he like the lord of hills appeared with 10 huge heads to heaven upreared. In the great car whereon he rode, like some dark cloud the giant showed, when rounded in their close array the cranes, mid wreaths of lightning play. He looked and saw, from realms of air, the rocky shore of ocean, where unnumbered trees delightful grew with flower and fruit of every hue. He looked on many a lilied pool with silvery waters fresh and cool, and shores like spacious altars meet for holy hermits, lone retreat. The graceful palm adorned the scene, the plantain waved her glossy green. There grew the saul and beetle, there on bending boughs the flowers were fair. There hermits dwelt who tamed each sense by strictest rule of abstinence. Gandharvas, Kinnars, 488, thronged the place, nagas and birds of heavenly race. Bright minstrels of the ethereal choir, and saints exempt from low desire, with ajas, sons of Brahma's line, Marichippas of seed divine, Vaikhanasas and Mashas strayed, and Balakilias, 489 in the shade. The lovely nymphs of heaven were there, celestial wreaths confined their hair, and to each form new grace was lent by wealth of heavenly ornament. Well skilled was each in play and dance, and gentle arts of dalliance. The glorious wife of many a god those beautiful recesses trod, their gods and danavs, all who eat the food of heaven, rejoiced to meet. The swan and saras thronged each bay with curlews, ducks, and divers gay, where the sea spray rose soft and white o'er rocks of glossy lazulite. As his swift way, the fiend pursued pale chariots of the gods he viewed, bearing each lord whose rites, austere, had raised him to the heavenly sphere. Thereon celestial garlands hung, there music played and songs were sung. Then bright Gandharvas met his view, and heavenly nymphs, as on he flew. He saw the sandal woods below, and precious trees of odorous flow, that to the air around them lent their riches of delightful scent, nor failed his roving eye to mark tall aloe trees in grove and park. He looked on wood with caches filled, and plants which balmy sweets distilled, where her fair flowers the beetle showed, and the bright pods of pepper glowed. The pearls in many a silvery heap lay on the margin of the deep, and gray rocks rose amid the red of coral, washed from ocean's bed. High soared the mountain peaks that bore treasures of gold and silver ore, and leaping down the rocky walls came wild and glorious waterfalls. Fair towns which grain and treasure held, and dames who every gem excelled, he saw outspread beneath him far, with steed and elephant and car. That ocean shore he viewed that showed fair as the blessed gods, abode where cool delightful breezes played o'er levels in the freshest shade. He saw a fig tree like a cloud, with mighty branches earthward bowed. It stretched 100 leagues, and made for hermit bands a welcome shade. Thither the feathered king of yore an elephant and tortoise bore, and lighted on a bough to eat the captives of his taloned feet. The bough, unable to sustain the crushing weight and sudden strain, loaded with sprays and leaves of spring, gave way beneath the feathered king. Under the shadow of the tree dwelt many a saint and devotee, Ajas, the sons of Brahma's line, Mashas, Marichippas divine. Vaikhanasas and all the race of Balakilias loved the place. But pitying their sad estate, the feathered monarch raised the weight of the huge bough, and bore away the loosened load and captured prey. 100 leagues away he sped, then on his monstrous booty fed, and with the bough he smote the lands where dwell the wild Nishada bands. High joy was his, because his deed from jeopardy the hermits freed. That pride for great deliverance wrought a double share of valor brought. His soul conceived the high emprise to snatch the Amrit from the skies. He rent the nets of iron first, then through the jewel chamber burst, and bore the drink of heaven away that watched in Indra's palace lay. Such was the hermit sheltering tree, which Rav, a letter 147 turned his eye to see. Still marked where Ru letter 10D sought to rest, the fig tree bore the name of blessed. When Rav, a letter 147, stayed his chariot o'er the ocean's heart-enchanting shore, he saw a hermitage that stood sequestered in the holy wood. He saw the fiend Maricha there with deerskin garb and matted hair coiled up in hermit guise, who spent his days by rule most abstinent. As guest and host are wont to meet, they met within that lone retreat. Before the king Maricha placed food, never known to human taste. He entertained his guest with meat, and gave him water for his feet, and then addressed the giant king with timely words of questioning. Lord, is it well with thee, and well with those in Lanka's town who dwell? What sudden thought, what urgent need has brought thee with impetuous speed? The fiend Maricha thus addressed Rav, a letter 147 the king, his mighty guest, and he, well skilled in arts that guide the eloquent, in turn replied. Canto 36. Rávan's speech. Hear me, Maricha, while I speak, and tell thee why thy home I seek. Sick and distressed am I, and see my surest hope and help in thee. Of Janisthan I need not tell, whereas acute you acute RP a letter 147 a K H A Khara dwell, and D you acute SH a letter 147 with the arm of might, and Trisirás, the fierce in fight, who feeds on human flesh and gore, and many noble giants more, who roam in dark of midnight through the forest, brave and strong and true. By my command they live at ease, and slaughter saints and devotees. Those twice 7,000 giants, all obedient to their captain's call, joying in war and ruthless deeds follow where mighty Khara leads. Those fearless warrior bands, who roam through Janisthan their forest home, in all their terrible array met Rama in the battle fray. Girt with all weapons, forth they sped with Khara at the army's head. The front of battle Rama held, with furious wrath his bosom swelled. Without a word his hate to show, he launched the arrows from his bow. On the fierce hosts the missiles came, each burning with destructive flame. The twice 7,000 fell o'erthrown by him, a man on foot alone. Khara the army's chief and pride, and Du acute SH a letter 147, fearless warrior, died, and Trisirás the fierce was slain. And D a letter 147 letter 10D, a K wood was free again. He, banished by his angry sire, roams with his wife in mean attire. This wretch, his warrior tribe's disgrace, has slain the best of giant race. Harsh, wicked, fierce, and greedy-souled, a fool, with senses uncontrolled, no thought of duty stirs his breast. He joys to see the world distressed. He sought the wood with fair pretense of truthful life and innocence, but his false hand my sister left mangled, of nose and ears bereft. This Rama's wife, who bears the name of Sítá, in her face and frame fair as a daughter of the skies, her will I seize and bring the prize triumphant from the forest shade. For this I seek thy willing aid. If thou, O mighty one, wilt lend thy help and stand beside thy friend, I with my brothers may defy all gods embattled in the sky. Come, aid me now, for thine the power to succor in the doubtful hour. Thou art in war and time of fear, for heart and hand without a peer. For thou art skilled in art and wile, a warrior brave and trained in guile. With this one hope, this only aim, O rover of the night, I came. Now let me tell what aid I ask to back me in my purpose task. In semblance of a golden deer, adorned with silver spots appear. Go seek his dwelling, in the way of Rama and his consort stray. Doubt not the lady, when she sees the wondrous deer amid the trees, will bid her lord and LAKSHM, a letter 1E47, take the creature for its beauty's sake. Then when the chiefs have parted thence, and left her lone without defense, as Rahu storms the moonlight, I will seize the lovely dame and fly. Her lord will waste away and weep for her, his valor could not keep. Then boldly will I strike the blow, and wreak my vengeance on the foe. When wise Maricha heard the tale, his heart grew faint, his cheek was pale, he stared with open orbs, and tried to moisten lips which terror dried, and grief, like death, his bosom rent as on the king his look he bent. The monarchs will he strove to stay, distracted with alarm, for well he knew the might that lay in Rama's matchless arm. With suppliant hands Maricha stood, and thus began to tell his counsel for the tyrant's good, and for his own as well. Canto 37. Maricha's speech. Maricha gave attentive ear the ruler of the fiends to hear, then, trained in all the rules that teach the eloquent, began his speech. 'Tis easy task, O king, to find smooth speakers who delight the mind. But they who urge, and they who do distasteful things unwise, are few. Thou hast not learnt, by proof untaught, and borne away by eager thought that Rama, formed for high emprise, with VARU letter 1E47 or with Indra vise. Still let thy people live in peace, nor let their name and lineage cease, for Rama with his vengeful hand can sweep the giants from the land. Oh, let not Janak's daughter bring destruction on the giant king. Let not the lady Sítá wake a tempest on thy head to break. Still let the dame, by care untried, be happy by her husband's side, lest swift avenging ruin fall on glorious Lanka, thee and all. Men such as thou with wills unchained, advised by sin and unrestrained, destroy themselves, the king, the state, and leave the people desolate. Rama, in bonds of duty held, was never by his sire expelled. He is no wretch of greedy mind, dishonor of his warrior kind. Free from all touch of rancorous spite, all creatures, good is his delight. He saw his sire of truthful heart deceived by Queen Kaikeyí's art, and said, a true and duteous son, what thou hast promised shall be done. To gratify the lady's will, his father's promise to fulfill, he left his realm and all delight for D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K wood, an anchorite. No cruel wretch, no senseless fool is Rama, unrestrained by rule. This groundless charge has ne'er been heard, nor shouldst thou speak the slanderous word. Rama in truth and goodness bold is virtue's self in human mold, the sovereign of the world confessed as Indra rules among the blessed. And dost thou plot from him, to rend the darling whom his arms defend? Less vain the hope, to steal away the glory of the Lord of Day. O Rav, a letter 1E47, guard thee from the fire of vengeful Rama's kindled ire. Each spark a shaft with deadly aim, while bow and falchion feed the flame. Cast not away in hopeless strife thy realm, thy bliss, thine own dear life. O Rav, a letter 1E47 of his might beware, a god of death who will not spare. That bow he knows so well to draw is the destroyer's flaming jaw, and with his shafts which flash and glow, he slays the armies of the foe. Thou ne'er canst win, the thought forgo, from the safeguard of shaft and bow King Janak's child, the dear delight of Rama unapproached in might. The spouse of Raghu's son, confessed lion of men with lion chest, dearer than life, through good and ill devoted to her husband's will, the slender-waisted, still must be from thy polluting touches free. Far better grasp with venturous hand the flame to wildest fury fanned. What king of giants canst thou gain from this attempt so wild and vain? If in the fight his eye he bend upon thee, Lord, thy days must end, so life and bliss and royal sway, lost beyond hope, will pass away. Summon each lord of high estate, and chief, VIBHISH a letter 1E47, 490 to debate. With peers in lore of counsel tried consider, reason, and decide scan strength and weakness. Count the cost, what may be gained and what be lost. Examine and compare aright thy proper power and Rama's might. Then if thy will be still thy care, thou wilt be prudent and forbear. O giant king, the contest shun, thy force is all too weak the Lord of Kausal's mighty son in deadly fray to seek. King of the hosts that rove at night, O hear what I advise. My prudent counsel do not slight, be patient and be wise. Canto 38. Maricha's speech. Once in my strength and vigor's pride I roamed this earth from side to side, and towering like a mountain's crest, 1,000 Nagas, 491, might possessed. Like some vast sable cloud I showed, my golden armlets flashed and glowed. A crown I wore, an axe I swayed, and all I met were sore afraid. I roved where D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K wood is spread. On flesh of slaughtered saints I fed. Then Visvamitra, sage revered, holy of heart, my fury feared. To Dasaratha's court he sped and went before the king and said, 492. With me, my lord, thy Rama send on holy days his aid to lend. Maricha fills my soul with dread and keeps me sore disquieted. The monarch heard the saint's request, and thus the glorious sage addressed. My boy as yet in arms, untrained the age of 12, has scarce attained. But I myself, a host will lead to guard thee in the hour of need. My host with fourfold troops complete, the rover of the night shall meet, and I, O best of saints, will kill thy foeman and thy prayer fulfill. The king vouchsafed his willing aid, the saint again this answer made. By Rama, might, and his alone, can this great fiend be overthrown. I know in days of yore the blessed thy saving help in fight confessed. Still of thy famous deeds they tell in heaven above, in earth, and hell, a mighty host obeys thy hest. Here let it still, I pray thee, rest. Thy glorious son, though yet a boy, will in the fight that fiend destroy. Rama alone with me shall go, be happy, victor of the foe. He spoke, the monarch gave assent, and Rama to the hermit lent. So to his woodland home in joy went Visvamitra with the boy. With ready bow, the champion stood to guard the rights in D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K wood. With glorious eyes, most bright to view, beardless as yet and dark of hue, a single robe his only wear, his temples veiled with waving hair, around his neck a chain of gold, he grasped the bow he loved to hold, and the young hero's presence made a glory in the forest shade. Thus Rama with his beauteous mien like, the young rising moon was seen, I, like a cloud which tempest brings, my arms adorned with golden rings, proud of the boon which lent me might, approached where dwelt the anchorite. But Rama saw me venturing nigh, raising my murderous axe on high, he saw, and fearless of the foe, strung with calm hand his trusty bow. By pride of conscious strength beguiled, I scorned him as a feeble child, and rushed with an impetuous bound on Visvamitra's holy ground. A keen swift shaft he pointed well, the foeman's rage to check and quell, and hurled 100 leagues away deep in the ocean waves I lay. He would not kill, but nobly brave my forfeit life he chose to save. So there I lay with wandering sense, dazed by that arrow's violence. Long in the sea I lay. At length slowly returned my sense and strength, and rising from my watery bed to Lanka's town again I sped. Thus was I spared, but all my band fell slain by Rama's conquering hand. A boy, untrained in warrior's skill, of iron arm and dauntless will. If thou with Rama still, in spite of warning and of prayer, wilt fight, I see terrific woes impend, and dire defeat thy days will end. Thy giants all will feel thee blow and share the fatal overthrow, who love the taste of joy and play, the banquet and the festal day. Thine eyes will see destruction take thy Lanka, lost for Sita's sake, and stately pile and palace fall with terrace, dome, and jeweled wall. The good will die. The crime of kings destruction on the people brings, the sinless die, as in the lake the fish must perish with the snake. The prostrate giants thou wilt see slain for this folly wrought by thee, their bodies bright with precious scent and sheen of heavenly ornament. Or see the remnant of thy train seek refuge far, when help is vain and with their wives or widowed fly to every quarter of the sky. Thy mournful eyes, where'er they turn, will see thy stately city burn, when royal homes with fire are red, and arrowy nets around are spread. A sin that tops all sins in shame is outrage to another's dame, 1,000 wives thy palace fill, and countless beauties wait thy will. O rest contented with thine own, nor let thy race be overthrown. If thou, O king, hast still delight in rank and wealth and power, and might, in noble wives, in troops of friends, in all that royal state attends, I warn thee, cast not all away, nor challenge Rama to the fray. If deaf to every friendly prayer, thou still wilt seek the strife, and from the side of Rama tear his lovely Maithil wife, soon will thy life and empire end destroyed by Rama's bow, and thou, with kith and kin and friend, to Yama's realm must go. Canto 39. Maricha's speech. I told thee of that dreadful day, when Rama smote and spared to slay. Now hear me, Rav a letter 147, while I tell what in the aftertime befell. At length, restored to strength and pride, I and two mighty fiends beside assumed the forms of deer, and strayed through a letter 147 letter 110 a K wood in lawn and glade. I reared terrific horns. Beneath were flaming tongue and pointed teeth. I roamed where'er my fancy led, and on the flesh of hermits fed, in sacred haunt, by hallowed tree, where the ritual fires might be. A fearful shape, I wandered through the wood, and many a hermit slew. With ruthless rage the saints I killed, who in the grove their tasks fulfilled. When smitten to the earth they sank, their flesh I ate, their blood I drank, and with my cruel deeds dismayed all dwellers in the forest shade, spoiling their rights in bitter hate, with human blood inebriate. Once in the wood I chanced to see Rama again, a devotee, a hermit, fed on scanty fare, who made the good of all his care. His noble wife was by his side, and LKSHM, a letter 147 in the battle tried. In senseless pride, I scorned the might of that illustrious anchorite, and heedless of a hermit foe, recalled my earlier overthrow. I charged him in my rage, and scorned to slay him with my pointed horn, in heedless haste, to fury wrought as on my former wounds I thought. Then from the mighty bow he drew 3 foe-destroying arrows flew, keen-pointed, leaping from the string, swift as the wind or feathered king. Dire shafts on flesh of foemen fed, like rushing thunderbolts they sped, with knots well smoothed and barbs well bent. Shot e'en as one, the arrows went. But I who Rama, smited felt, and knew the blows the hero dealt, escaped by rapid flight. The 2 who lingered on the spot, he slew. I fled from mortal danger, freed from the dire shaft by timely speed. Now to deep thought my days I give, and as a humble hermit live. In every shrub, in every tree I view that noblest devotee. In every knotted trunk, I mark his deerskin and his coat of bark, and see the bow-armed Rama stand like Yama with his noose in hand. I tell the Rav a letter 147, in my fright 1,000 Ramas mock my sight. This wood with every bush and bough seems all one fearful Rama now. Throughout the grove there is no spot so lonely where I see him not. He haunts me in my dreams by night, and wakes me with the wild affright. The letter that begins his name sends terror through my startled frame. The rapid cars whereon we ride, the rich rare jewels, once my pride, have names, 493, that strike upon mine ear with hated sound that counsels fear. His mighty strength too well I know, nor art thou match for such a foe. Too strong were Raghu's son, in fight for Namuchi or Bali's might. Then Rama to the battle dare, or else be patient and forbear, but wouldst thou see me live in peace, let mention of the hero cease. The good whose holy lives were spent in deepest thought, most innocent, with all their people many a time have perished through another's crime. So in the common ruin, I must for another's folly die, do all thy strength and courage can, but ne'er will I approve the plan. For he, in might supremely great, the giant world could extirpate, since, when impetuous Khara sought the grove of Janisthan and fought for execute RP, a letter 147, a KHAS sake, he died by Rama's hand in battle tried. How has he wronged thee? Suli swear, and Rama's fault and sin declare. I warn thee, and my words are wise, I seek thy people's weal. But if this reed thou wilt despise, nor hear my last appeal, thou with thy kin and all thy friends in fight this day wilt die, when his great bow the hero bends, and shafts unerring fly. Canto 40. Rávan's speech. But Rav, a letter 147, scorned the reed he gave in timely words to warn and save. and as the wretch who hates to live, rejects the herb the leeches give. By fate to sin and ruin spurred, that sage advice the giant heard, then in reproaches hard and stern thus to Maricha spoke in turn. Is this thy counsel, weak and base, unworthy of thy giant race? Thy speech is fruitless, vain, thy toil like casting seed on barren soil. No words of thine shall drive me back from Rama and the swift attack. A fool is he, inured to sin, and more of human origin. The craven at a woman's call to leave his sire, his mother, all the friends he loved, the power and sway, and hasten to the woods away. But now his anger will I rouse, stealing away his darling spouse. I in thy sight will ravish her from Khara's cruel murderer. Upon this plan my soul is bent, and naught shall move my firm intent, not if the way through demons led, and gods with Indra at their head. 'Tis thine, when questioned, to explain the hope and fear, the loss and gain, and when thy king thy thoughts would know, the triumph or the danger show. A prudent counselor should wait, and speak when ordered in debate, with hands uplifted, calm and meek, if honor and reward he seek. Or, when some prudent course he sees which, spoken, may his king displease, he should by hints of dexterous art his counsel to his lord impart. But prudent words are said in vain, when the blunt speech brings grief and pain. A high-souled king will scarcely thank the man who shames his royal rank. 5 are the shapes that kings assume, of majesty, of grace and gloom, like Indra now or Agni, now like the dear moon with placid brow. Like mighty Varu letter 1E47 now they show, now fierce as he who rules below. O giant, monarchs lofty-souled are kind and gentle, stern and bold, with gracious love their gifts dispense, and swiftly punish each offense. Thus subjects should their rulers view, with all respect and honor due. But folly leads thy heart to slight thy monarch and neglect his right. Thou hast in lawless pride addressed with bitter words thy royal guest. I ask thee not my strength to scan, or loss and profit in the plan. I only spoke to tell thee deed, O mighty one, by me decreed, and bid thee in the peril lend thy succor to support thy friend. Hear me again, and I will tell how thou canst aid my venture well. In semblance of a golden deer adorned with silver drops, appear, and near the cottage in the way of Rama and his consort stray. Draw nigh, and wandering through the brake with thy strange form her fancy take. The Maithil dame with wondering eyes will took upon thy fair disguise, and quickly bid her husband go and bring the deer that charms her so, when Raghu's son has left the place, still pressing onward in the chase, cry out, OLAKSHM, a letter 1E47. Ah, mine own, with voice resembling Rama's tone. When LAKSHM, a letter 1E47, hears his brother's cry, impelled by Sítá he will fly restless with eager love, to aid the hunter in the distant shade. When both her guards have left her side, even as Indra, thousand-eyed, clasps Sachi, will I bear away the Maithil dame an easy prey. When thou, my friend, this aid hast lent, go where thou wilt and live content. True servant, faithful to thy vow, with half my realm I thee endow. Go forth, may luck thy way attend that leads thee to the happy end. I in my car will quickly be in D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K wood, and follow thee. So will I cheat this Rama's eyes and win without a blow the prize, and safe return to Lanka's town with thee, my friend, this day shall crown. But if thou wilt not aid my will, my hand this day thy blood shall spill. Yea, thou must share the destined task, for force will take the help I ask. No bliss that rebel's life attends who stubborn will his lord offends. Thy life, if thou the task assay, in jeopardy may stand, oppose me, and this very day thou deest by this hand. Now ponder all that thou hast heard within thy prudent breast, reflect with care on every word, and do what seems the best. Canto 41. Maricha's reply. Against his judgment sorely pressed by his imperious lord's behest, Maricha threats of death defied, and thus with bitter words replied. Ah, who, my king, with sinful thought this wild and wicked counsel taught, by which destruction soon will fall on thee, thy sons, thy realm and all. Who is the guilty wretch who sees with envious eye thy blissful ease, and by this plan, so falsely shown, death's gate for thee has open thrown? With souls impelled by mean desire, thy foes against thy life conspire. They urge thee to destruction's brink, and gladly would they see thee sink. Who with base thought to work thee woe this fatal road has dared to show, and, triumph in his wicked eye, would see thee enter in and die. To all thy counselors, untrue, the punishment of death is due, who see thee tempt the dangerous way, nor strain each nerve thy foot to stay. Wise lords whose king, by passion led, the path of sin begins to tread, restrain him while there yet is time. But thine, they see nor heed the crime. These by their master, will obtain merit and fame and joy and gain. Tis only by their master's grace that servants hold their lofty place. But when the monarch stoops to sin, they lose each joy they strive to win, and all the people high and low fall in the common overthrow. Merit and fame and honor spring, best of the mighty, from the king. So all should strive with heart and will to keep the king from every ill. Pride, violence, and sullen hate will ne'er maintain a monarch's state, and those who cruel deeds advise must perish when their master dies, like drivers with their cars o'erthrown in places rough with root and stone. The good whose holy lives were spent on duty's highest law's intent, with wives and children, many a time have perished for another's crime. Hapless are they whose sovereign lord, opposed to all, by all abhorred, is cruel-hearted, harsh, severe, thus might a jackal tend the deer. Now all the giant race await, destroyed by thee, a speedy fate, ruled by a king so cruel-souled, foolish in heart and uncontrolled. Think not I fear the sudden blow that threatens now to lay me low. I mourn the ruin that I see impending o'er thy host and thee. Me first perchance will Rama kill, but soon his hand thy blood will spill. I die, and if by Rama slain and not by thee, I count it gain. Soon as the hero's face, I see his angry eyes will murder me, and if on her thy hands thou lay thy friends and thou are dead this day. If with my help thou still must dare the lady from her lord to tear, farewell to all our days are o'er, Langkah and giants are no more. In vain, an earnest friend, I warn thee, king, and pray. Thou wilt not to my prayers attend, or heed the words I say so men, when life is fleeting fast and death's sad hour is nigh, heedless and blinded to the last rejected vice and die. Canto 42. Maricha transformed. Maricha thus in wild unrest with bitter words the king addressed. Then to his giant lord in dread, "Arise and let us go," he said. "Ah, I have met that mighty lord armed with his shafts and bow and sword, and if again that bow he bend our lives that very hour will end. For none that warrior can provoke, and think to fly his deadly stroke. Like Yama with his staff is he, and his dread hand will slaughter thee. What can I more? My words can find no passage to thy stubborn mind. I go, great king, thy task to share, and may success attend thee there." With that reply and bold consent, the giant king was well content. He strained Maricha to his breast, and thus with joyful words addressed. There spoke a hero dauntless still, obedient to his master's will, Maricha's proper self once more, some other took thy shape before. Come, mount my jeweled car that flies, will-governed through the yielding skies. These asses, goblin-faced, shall bear us quickly through the fields of air. Attract the lady with thy shape, then through the wood at will escape. And I, when she has no defense, will seize the dame and bear her thence. Again Maricha made reply, consent and will to signify. With rapid speed the giants too from the calm hermit dwelling flew, borne in that wondrous chariot, meet for some great god's celestial seat. They from their airy path looked down on many a wood and many a town on lake and river, brook and rill, city and realm and towering hill. Soon he whom giant hosts obeyed, Maricha by his side, surveyed the dark expanse of D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K wood where Rama's hermit cottage stood. They left the flying car, whereon the wealth of gold and jewels shone, and thus the giant king addressed Maricha as his hand he pressed. "Maricha, look. Before our eyes round, Rama's home the plantains rise. His hermitage is now in view, quick to the work we came to do." Thus Rav, a letter 1E47 spoke. Maricha heard obedient to his master's word, threw off his giant shape, and near the cottage strayed a beauteous deer. With magic power, by rapid change, his borrowed form was fair and strange. A sapphire tipped each horn with light, his face was black relieved with white. the turkeys and the ruby, shed a glory from his ears and head. His arching neck was proudly raised, and lazulites beneath it blazed. With roseate bloom his flanks were dyed, and lotus tints adorned his hide. His shape was fair, compact, and slight, his hoofs were carven lazulite. His tail, with every changing glow, displayed the hues of Indra's bow. With glossy skin so strangely flecked, with tints of every gem bedecked. A light o'er Rama's home he sent, and through the wood where'er he went. The giant clad in that strange dress that took the soul with loveliness, to charm the fair Vidhin's eyes with mingled wealth of mineral dyes, moved onward, cropping in his way, the grass and grain and tender spray. His coat with drops of silver bright, a form to gaze on with delight. He raised his fair neck as he went to browse on bud and filament. Now in the cassia grove he strayed, now by the cotton plantain's shade. Slowly and slowly on, he came to catch the glances of the dame, and the tall deer of splendid hue shone full at length in Sita's view. He roamed where'er his fancy chose, where Rama's leafy cottage rose. Now near, now far, in careless ease, he came and went among the trees. Now with light feet he turned to fly, now, reassured, again drew nigh. Now gamboled close with leap and bound, now lay upon the grassy ground, now sought the door, devoid of fear, and mingled with the troop of deer, led them a little way, and thence again returned with confidence. Now flying far, now turning back emboldened on his former track, seeking to win the lady's glance, he wandered through the green expanse. Then thronging round, the woodland deer gazed on his form with wondering fear, while they followed where he led, then snuffed the tainted gale and fled. The giant, though he longed to slay the startled quarry, spared the prey, and mindful of the shape he wore to veil his nature, still forbore. Then Sítá of the glorious eye, returning from her task, drew nigh, for she had sought the wood to bring each loveliest flower of early spring. Now would the bright-eyed lady choose some gorgeous bud with blending hues, now plucked the mango's spray, and now the bloom from an asoka bough. She with her beauteous form, unmeet for woodland life and lone retreat, that wondrous dappled deer beheld gemmed with rich pearls, unparalleled. His silver hair the lady saw, his radiant teeth and lips and jaw, and gazed with rapture as her eyes expanded in their glad surprise. And when the false deer's glances fell on her whom Rama loved so well, he wandered here and there, and cast a luminous beauty as he passed, and Janak's child with strange delight kept gazing on the unwanted sight. Canto 43. The wondrous deer. She stooped, her hands with flowers to fill, but gazed upon the marvel still, gazed on its back and sparkling side, where silver hues with golden vied. Joyous was she of faultless mold, with glassy skin like polished gold. And loudly to her husband cried, and bow-armed Lakshman, a letter 1E47 by his side. Again, again she called in glee. "Oh, come this glorious creature see, quick, quick, my lord, this deer to view. And bring thy brother Lakshman, a letter 1E47 too." As through the wood her clear tones rang, swift to her side the brothers sprang. With eager eyes the grove they scanned, and saw the deer before them stand. But doubt was strong in Lakshman, a letter 1E47's breast, who thus his thought and fear expressed. "Stay, for the wondrous deer, we see the fiend Maricha's self may be. Ere now have kings who sought this place to take their pastime in the chase, met from his wicked art defeat, and fallen slain by like deceit. He wears, well trained in magic guile, the figure of a deer awhile, bright as the very sun, or place where dwell the gay Gandharva race. No deer, O Rama, e'er was seen thus decked with gold and jewels' sheen. 'Tis magic, for the world has ne'er, Lord of the world, shown aught so fair. But Sítá of the lovely smile, a captive to the giant's wile, turned Lakshman, a letter 1E47's prudent speech aside, and thus with eager words replied. "My honored lord, this deer I see with beauty rare enraptures me. Go, chief of mighty arm, and bring for my delight this precious thing. Fair creatures of the woodland roam, untroubled near our hermit home. The forest cow and stag are there, the fawn, the monkey, and the bear where spotted deer delight to play, and strong and beauteous kinnars, 494, stray. But never, as they wandered by, has such a beauty charmed mine eye as this with limbs so fair and slight, so gentle, beautiful, and bright. Oh, see how fair it is to view with jewels of each varied hue, bright as the rising moon it glows, lighting the wood where'er it goes. Ah me, what form and grace are there! Its limbs how fine, its hues how fair! Transcending all that words express, it takes my soul with loveliness. Oh, if thou would, to please me, strive to take the beauteous thing alive, how thou wouldst gaze with wondering eyes delighted on the lovely prize. And when our woodland life is o'er, and we enjoy our realm once more, the wondrous animal will grace the chambers of my dwelling place, and a dear treasure will it be to bur it and the queens and me, and all with rapture and amaze upon its heavenly form will gaze. But if the beauteous deer, pursued, thine arts to take it still elude, strike it, O chieftain, and the skin will be a treasure laid within. Oh, how I long my time to pass sitting upon the tender grass, with that soft fell beneath me spread bright with its hair of golden thread. This strong desire, this eager will, befits a gentle lady ill, but when I first beheld, its look my breast with fascination took. See, golden hair its flank adorns, and sapphires tip its branching horns. Resplendent as the lunar way, or the first blush of opening day, with graceful form and radiant hue it charmed thy heart, O chieftain, too. He heard her speech with willing ear, he looked again upon the deer. Its lovely shape his breast beguiled moved by the prayer of Janak's child, and yielding for her pleasure's sake, to Lakshman, a letter 147 Rama turned and spake. Mark, Lakshman, a letter 147, mark how Sita's breast with eager longing is possessed. Today this deer of wondrous breed must for his passing beauty bleed, brighter than air in Nandan strayed, or Chaitraratha's heavenly shade. How should the groves of earth possess such all-surpassing loveliness? The hair lies smooth and bright and fine, or waves upon each curving line, and drops of living gold bedeck the beauty of his side and neck. Oh look, his crimson tongue between his teeth like flaming fire is seen, flashing, whene'er his lips he parts, as from a cloud the lightning darts. Oh see his sun-like forehead shine with emerald tints and almandine, while pearly light and roseate glow of shells adorn his neck below. No eye on such a deer can rest, but soft enchantment takes the breast, no man so fair a thing behold ablaze with light of radiant gold, celestial, bright with jewels' sheen, nor marvel when his eyes have seen. A king equipped with bow and shaft delights in gentle forest craft, and as in boundless woods, he strays the quarry for the venison slays. There as he wanders with his train a store of wealth, he oft may gain. He claims by right the precious ore, he claims the jewels' sparkling store. Such gains are dearer in his eyes than wealth that in his chamber lies, the dearest things his spirit knows, dear as the bliss which Sucra chose. But oft the rich expected gain which heedless men pursue in vain, the sage, who prudent counsels know, explain and in a moment show. This best of deer, this gem of all, to yield his precious spoils must fall, and tender Sítá by my side shall sit upon the golden hide. Ne'er could I find so rich a coat on spotted deer, or sheep or goat. No buck or antelope has such, so bright to view, so soft to touch. This radiant deer, and one on high that moves in glory through the sky, alike in heavenly beauty, are one on the earth and one a star. But brother, if thy fears be true, and this bright creature that we view be fierce Maricha in disguise, then by this hand he surely dies. For that dire fiend who spurns control with bloody hand and cruel soul, has roamed this forest and dismayed the holiest saints who haunt the shade. Great archers, sprung of royal race, pursuing in the wood the chase, have fallen by his wicked art, and now my shaft shall strike his heart. Vadapi, by his magic power, made heedless saints his flesh devour. Then, from within their frames, he rent forth bursting from imprisonment. But once his art in senseless pride upon the mightiest saint he tried, Agastya's self, and caused him taste the baited meal before him placed. Vadapi, when the rite was o'er, would take the giant form he wore, but Saint Agastya knew his wile, and checked the giant with smile. Vadapi, thou with cruel spite haste conquered many an anchorite the noblest of the Brahmin caste, and now thy ruin comes at last. Now if my power he thus defies, this giant, like Vadapi dies, daring to scorn a man like me, a self-subduing devotee. Yea, as Agastya slew the foe, my hand shall lay Maricha low clad in thine arms thy bow and hand, to guard the Maythil lady stand. With watchful eye and thoughtful breast, keeping each word of my behest I go, and hunting through the brake this wondrous deer will bring or take. Yea, surely I will bring the spoil returning from my hunter's toil see. Lakshman, a letter 1E47, how my consort's eyes are longing for the lovely prize. This day it falls, that I may win the treasure of so fair a skin. Do thou and Sítá watch with care, lest danger seize you unaware. Swift from my bow one shaft will fly. The stricken deer will fall and die, then quickly will I strip the game and bring the trophy to my dame. A letter 1E60 Ayus, guardian good and wise, our old and faithful friend, the best and strongest bird that flies, his willing aid will lend the Maythil lady well protect, for every chance provide, and in thy tender care suspect a foe on every side. Canto 44. Maricha's death. Thus having warned his brother bold, he grasped his sword with haft of gold, and bow with triple flexure bent, his own delight and ornament, then bound 2 quivers to his side, and hurried forth with eager stride. Soon as the antlered monarch saw the lord of monarchs near him draw, while with trembling heart he fled, then turned and showed his stately head. With sword and bow the chief pursued where the fleeing deer he viewed sending from dell, and lone recessed the splendor of his loveliness. Now full in view the creature stood, now vanished in the depth of wood, now running with a languid flight, now like a meteor lost to sight. With trembling limbs away he sped, then like the moon with clouds o'erspread, gleamed for a moment bright between the trees, and was again unseen. Thus in the magic deer's disguise Maricha lured him to the prize, and seen a while, then lost to view, far from his cot the hero drew. Still by the flying game, deceived the hunter's heart was wroth and grieved, and wearied with the fruitless chase, he stayed him in a shady place. Again the rover of the night enraged the chieftain, full in sight, slow moving in the coppice near, surrounded by the woodland deer. Again the hunter sought the game that seemed a while to court his aim, but seized again with sudden dread, beyond his sight the creature fled. Again the hero left the shade, again the deer before him strayed. With surer hope and stronger will the hunter longed his prey to kill. Then as his soul impatient grew, an arrow from his side he drew resplendent at the sunbeam's glow, the crusher of the smitten foe. With skillful heed the mighty lord fixed well shaft and strained the cord. Upon the deer his eyes he bent, and like a fiery serpent went the arrow Brahma's self had framed, alive with sparks that hissed and flamed, like Indra's flashing levin. True to the false deer the missile flew, cleaving his flesh, that wondrous dart stood quivering in Maricha's heart. Scarce from the ground 1 foot he sprang, then stricken fell with deadly pang. Half lifeless, as he pressed the ground, he gave a roar of awful sound, and ere the wounded giant died he threw his borrowed form aside, remembering still his lord's behest he pondered in his heart, how best Sítá might send her guard away. And Rav, a letter 1E47 seized the helpless prey. The monster knew the time was nigh, and called aloud with eager cry, Ho, Sítá, Lakshman, a letter 1E47, and the tone he borrowed was like Rama's own. So by that matchless arrow cleft, the deer's bright form Maricha left, resumed his giant shape and size, and closed in death his languid eyes. When Rama saw his awful foe gasp, smeared with blood in deadly throe, his anxious thoughts to Sítá sped, and the wise words that Lakshman, a letter 1E47 said, that this was false Maricha's art, returned again upon his heart. He knew the foe he triumphed, or the name of great Maricha bore. The fiend, he pondered, ere he died, Ho, Lakshman, a letter 1E47. Ho, my Sítá, cried if that cry has reached her ear, how dire must be my darling's fear. And Lakshman, a letter 1E47 of the mighty arm, what thinks he in his wild alarm? As thus he thought in sad surmise, each startled hair began to rise, and when he saw the giant slain and thought upon that cry again, his spirit sank and terror pressed full sorely on the hero's breast. Another deer he chased and struck, he bore away the fallen buck, to Janisthan then turned his face and hastened to his dwelling place. Canto 45. Lakshman's departure. But Sítá hearing as she thought, her husband's cry with anguish fraught called to her guardian, Lakshman a letter 1E47, run, and in the wood seek Raghu's son. Scarce can my heart retain its throne, scarce can my life be called mine own, as all my powers and senses fail at that long, loud, and bitter wail. Haste to the wood with all thy speed, and save thy brother in his need. Go, save him in the distant glade where loud he calls for timely aid. He falls beneath some giant foe, a bull whom lions overthrow. Deaf to her prayer, no step he stirred, obedient to his mother's word. Then Janak's child, with ire inflamed, in words of bitter scorn exclaimed. Sumitra's son, a friend in show, thou art in truth thy brother's foe, who canst at such any hour deny thy succor and neglect his cry. Yes, Lakshman, a letter 1E47, smit with love of me thy brother's death thou fain wouldst see. This guilty love thy heart has swayed, and makes thy feet so loth to aid. Thou hast no love for Rama, no, thy joy is vice, thy thoughts are low, hence thus unmoved thou yet canst stay while my dear lord is far away. If aught of ill my lord betide who led thee here, thy chief and guide, ah, what will be my hapless fate left in the wild wood desolate? Thus spoke the lady sad with fear, with many a sigh and many a tear, still trembling like a captured doe. And Lakshman, a letter 1E47, spoke to calm her woe. Vidhin queen, be sure of this, and at the thought thy fear dismiss. Thy husband's mightier power defies all gods and angels of the skies, Gandharvas and the sons of light, serpents and rovers of the night. I tell thee of the sons of earth, of gods who boast celestial birth, of beasts and birds and giant hosts, of demigods, Gandharvas, ghosts, of awful fiends, O thou most fair, there lives not one whose heart would dare to meet thy Rama in the fight, like Indra's self unmatched in might. Such idle words thou must not say, thy Rama lives whom none may slay. I will not, cannot leave thee here in the wild wood till he be near. The mightiest strength can ne'er withstand his eager force, his vigorous hand. No, not the triple world allied with all the immortal gods beside. Dismiss thy fear, again take heart, let all thy doubt and woe depart. Thy Lord, be sure, will soon be here and bring thee back that best of dear. Not his that mournful cry, nor haply came it from the sky. Some giant's art was busy there, and framed a castle based on air. A precious pledge art thou, consigned to me by him of noblest mind, nor can I, fairest dame, forsake the pledge which Rama bade me take. Upon our heads, O queen, we drew the giants, hate when Rama slew their chieftain Khara, and the shade of Janasthan in ruin laid. Through all this mighty would they rove, with varied cries from grove to grove on rapine, bent they wander here. But oh, dismiss thy causeless fear. Bright flashed her eye as Lakshman, a letter 1E47, spoke, and forth her words of fury broke upon her truthful guardian, flung with bitter taunts that pierced and stung. Shame on such false compassion, base defiler of thy glorious race. 'Twere joyous sight, I ween to thee my lord, and dire straight to see. Thou knowest Rama sore bested, or word like this thou ne'er hadst said. No marvel if we find such sin in rivals false to kith and kin. Wretches like thee of evil kind, concealing crime with crafty mind. Thou wretch, thine aid wilt still deny, and leave my lord alone to die. Has love of me unnerved thy hand, or Burrit's art this ruin planned? But be the treachery his or thine in vain the base design. For how shall I, the chosen bride of dark-hued Rama, lotus-eyed, the queen who once called Rama mine to love of other men decline? Believe me, Lakshman, a letter 1E47, Rama's wife before thine eyes will quit this life, and not a moment will she stay if her dear lord have passed away. The lady's bitter speech, that stirred each hair upon his frame, he heard. With lifted hands together laid, his calm reply he gently made. No words have I to answer now, my deity, O queen art thou. But 'tis no marvel, dame, to find such lack of sense in womankind. Throughout this world, O Mathil dame, weak women's hearts are still the same. Inconstant, urged by envious spite, they sever friends and hate the right. I cannot brook, Vidhin queen, thy words intolerably keen. Mine ears thy fierce reproaches pain, as boiling water seethes the brain. And now to bear me witness all the dwellers in the wood I call that, when with words of truth I plead, this harsh reply is all my meed. Ah, woe is thee! Ah, grief, that still eager to do my brother's will, mourning thy woman's nature, I must see thee doubt my truth and die. I fly to Rama's side, and oh, may bliss attend thee while I go. May all attendant wood gods screen thy head from harm, O large-eyed queen. And though dire omens meet my sight and fill my soul with wild affright, may I return in peace and see the son of Raghu safe with thee. The child of Janak heard him speak, and the hot teardrops down her cheek, increasing to a torrent, ran, as thus once more the dame began. O Lakshman, a letter 1E47, if I would be Godavari's flood shall cover me, or I will die by cord or leap life-weary from yon rocky steep, or deadly poison will I drink, or neath the kindled flames will sink, but never, reft of Rama, can consent to touch a meaner man. The Maithil dame with many sighs, and torrents pouring from her eyes, the faithful Lakshman, a letter 1E47 thus addressed, and smote her hands upon her breast. Sumitra's son, o'erwhelmed by fears, looked on the large-eyed queen. He saw that flood of burning tears, he saw that piteous mien. He yearned sweet comfort to afford, he strove to soothe her pain, but to the brother of her lord she spoke no word again. His reverent hands once more he raised, his head he slightly bent, upon her face he sadly gazed, and then toward Rama went. Canto 46. The guest. The angry Lakshman, a letter 1E47 scarce could brook her bitter words, her furious look. With dark forebodings in his breast to Rama's side, he quickly pressed. Then 10-necked Rav, a letter 1E47, saw the time propitious for his purposed crime. A mendicant in guise, he came and stood before the Maithil dame. His garb was red, with tufted hair and sandaled feet a shade he bare, and from the fiend's left shoulder slung a staff and water vessel hung. Near to the lovely dame he drew, while both the chiefs were far from view, as darkness takes the evening air when neither sun nor moon is there. He bent his eye upon the dame, a princess fair, of spotless fame, so might some baleful planet be near moon-forsaken Rohi letter 1E47 acute. 495, as the fierce tyrant nearer drew, the trees in Janisthan that grew waved not a leaf for fear and woe, and the hushed wind forbore to blow. Godavari's waters as they fled, saw his fierce eyeballs flashing red, and from each swiftly gliding wave a melancholy murmur gave. Then Rav, a letter 1E47, when his eager eye beheld the longed-for moment, nigh in mendicant's apparel, dressed near to the Maithil lady pressed. In holy guise, a fiend abhorred, he found her mourning for her lord. Thus threatening draws Sanishar, 496, nigh to Chitra, 497, in the evening sky, thus the deep well by grass concealed yawns treacherous in the verdant field. He stood and looked upon the dame of Rama, queen of spotless fame with her bright teeth, and each fair limb like the full moon she seemed to him, sitting within her leafy cot, weeping for woe that left her not. Thus, while with joy his pulses beat, he saw her in her lone retreat, eyed like the lotus, fair to view in silken robes of amber hue. Pierced to the core by Kama's dart, he murmured texts with lying art, and questioned with a soft addressed the lady in her loneliness. The fiend essayed with gentle speech the heart of that fair dame to reach, pride of the worlds, like beauty's queen without her darling lotus seen. O thou whose silken robes enfold a form more fair than finest gold, with lotus garland on thy head, like a sweet spring with bloom o'erspread. Who art thou, fair one? What thy name, beauty or honor, fortune, fame, spirit or nymph or queen of love descended from thy home above? Bright as the dazzling jasmine shine, thy small square teeth in level line. Like two black stars aglow with light thine eyes, are large and pure and bright. Thy charms of smile and teeth and hair and winning eyes, O thou most fair, steal all my spirit, as the flow of rivers mines the bank below. How bright, how fine each flowing tress! How firm those orbs beneath thy dress! That dainty waist with ease were spanned, sweet lady, by a lover's hand. Mine eyes, O beauty, ne'er have seen goddess or nymph so fair of mien, or bright Gandharva's heavenly dame, or woman of so perfect frame. In youth's soft prime thy years are few, and earth has not so fair to view. I marvel one like thee in face should make the woods her dwelling place. Leave, lady, leave this lone retreat in forest wilds for the unmeet, where giants fierce and strong assume all shapes and wander in the gloom. These dainty feet were formed to tread some palace floor with carpets spread, or wander in trim gardens where each opening bud perfumes the air. The richest robe thy form should deck, the rarest gems adorn thy neck, the sweetest wreath should bind thy hair, the noblest lord thy bed should share. Art thou akin, O fair of form, to Rudras, 498, or the gods of storm, 499, or to the glorious Vasus, 500? How can less than these be bright as thou? But never nymph or heavenly maid or goddess haunts this gloomy shade. Here giants roam, a savage race, what led thee to so dire a place? Here monkeys leap from tree to tree, and bears and tigers wander free. Here ravening lions prowl, and fell hyenas in the thickets yell, and elephants infuriate roam, mighty and fierce, their woodland home. Dost thou not dread, so soft and fair, tiger and lion, wolf and bear? Hast thou, O beauteous dame, no fear in the wild wood so lone and drear? Whose and who art thou? Whence and why, sweet lady, with no guardian nigh, dost thou this awful forest tread by giant bands inhabited? The praise the high-souled Rav, a letter 1E47, spoke no doubt within her bosom woke. His saintly look and Brahmin guise deceived the lady's trusting eyes. With due attention on the guest, her hospitable rites she pressed. She bade the stranger to a seat, and gave him water for his feet. The bowl and water-pot he bare, and garb which wandering Brahmins wear forbade a doubt to rise. Won by his holy look, she deemed the stranger even as he seemed to her deluded eyes. Intent on hospitable care, she brought her best of woodland fare, and showed her guest a seat. She bade the saintly stranger lave his feet in water which she gave, and sit and rest and eat. He kept his eager glances bent on her so kindly eloquent, wife of the noblest king, and longed in heart to steal her thence, preparing by the dire offense, death on his head to bring. The lady watched with anxious face for Rama coming from the chase with Lakshman, a letter 1E47 by his side. But nothing met her wandering glance save the wild forest's green expanse, extending far and wide. Canto 47. Ravan's wooing. As, clad in mendicant's disguise, he questioned thus his destined prize, she to the seeming saintly man the story of her life began. My guest is he, she thought, and I, to 'scape his curse, must needs reply. Child of a noble sire, I spring from Janak, fair Vidha's king. May every good be thine. My name is Sítá, Rama's cherished dame. 12 winters with my lord, I spent most happily with sweet content in the rich home of Raghu's line, and every earthly joy was mine. 12 pleasant years flew by, and then his peers advised the king of men, Rama, my lord, to consecrate joint ruler of his ancient state. But when the rites were scarce begun, to consecrate Ikshvaku's son, the queen Kaikeyí, honored dame, sought of her lord an ancient claim. Her plea of former service pressed, and made him grant her new request to banish Rama to the wild and consecrate instead her child. This double prayer on him, the best and truest king, she strongly pressed. Mine eyes in sleep I will not close, nor eat, nor drink, nor take repose. This very day my death shall bring if Rama be anointed king. As thus she spake in envious ire, the aged king, my husband's sire, besought with fitting words, but she was cold and deaf to every plea. As yet my days are few, 18 the years of life that I have seen, and Rama, best of all alive, has passed of years 105. Rama the great and gentle, through all region famed as pure and true, large-eyed and mighty-armed and tall, with tender heart that cares for all. But Dasaratha, led astray by woman's wile and passion's sway, by his strong love of her impelled, the consecrating rites withheld. When, hopeful of the promised grace, my Rama sought his father's face, the queen Kaikeyí, ill at ease, spoke to my lord brief words like these. Hear, son of Raghu, hear from me the words thy father says to thee. I yield this day to Bharat's hand, free from all foes, this ancient land. Fly from this home no longer thine, and dwell in woods 5 years and 9. Live in the forest and maintain mine honor pure from falsehood's stain. Then Rama spoke, untouched by dread, Yea, it shall be as thou hast said, and answered, faithful to his vows, obeying Dasaratha's spouse. The offered realm I would not take, but still keep true the words he spake. Thus, gentle Brahmin, Rama still clung to his vow with firmest will. And valiant Lakshman, a letter 1E47, dear to fame, his brother by a younger dame, bold victor in the deadly fray, would follow Rama on his way. On sternest vows his heart was set, and he, a youthful anchoret, bound up in twisted coil his hair and took the garb which hermits wear, then with his bow to guard us, he went forth with Rama and with me. By Queen Kaikeyí's art bereft the kingdom and our home we left, and bound by stern religious vows, we sought this shade of forest boughs. Now, best of Brahmins, here we tread these pathless regions dark and dread. But come, refresh thy soul, and rest here for a while an honored guest, for he, my lord, will soon be here with fresh supply of woodland cheer, large store of venison of the buck, or some great boar his hand has struck. Meanwhile, O stranger, grant my prayer. Thy name, thy race, thy birth declare, and why with no companion thou roamest in a letter 1E47 letter 1E0 a K forest now. Thus questioned Sítá, Rama's dame. Then fierce the stranger's answer came, Lord of the giant legions, he from whom celestial armies flee, the dread of hell and earth and sky, Rav a letter 1E47 the Rakshas king am I. Now when thy gold-like form I view arrayed in silks of amber hue, my love, O thou of perfect mold, for all my dames is dead and cold. 1,000 fairest women, torn from many a land my home adorn. But come, loveliest lady, be the queen of every dame and me. My city Lanka, glorious town, looks from a mountain's forehead down where ocean with his flash and foam beats madly on mine island home. With me, O Sítá, shalt thou rove delighted through each shady grove, nor shall thy happy breast retain fond memory of this life of pain. In gay attire, a glittering band, 5,000 maids shall round thee stand, and serve thee at thy beck and sign, if thou, fair Sítá, wilt be mine. Then forth her noble passion broke as thus in turn the lady spoke. Me the wife of Rama, him the lion lord with lion's limb, strong as the sea, firm as the rock, like Indra in the battle shock. The lord of each auspicious sign, the glory of his princely line, like some fair bod tree strong and tall, the noblest and the best of all Rama, the heir of happy fate who keeps his word inviolate, lord of the lion gate, possessed of mighty arm and ample chest, Rama the lion warrior, him whose moon-bright face no fear can dim Rama, his bridled passions, lord, the darling whom his sire adored. Me the true and loving dame of Rama, prince of deathless fame, me wouldst thou vainly woo and press. A jackal woo a lioness, steal from the sun his glory. Such thy hope, Lord Rama's wife, to touch. Thou hast seen the trees of gold, the sign which dying eyes behold, thus seeking, weary of thy life, to win the love of Rama's wife. Fool! Wilt thou dare to rend away the famished lion's bleeding prey, or from the threatening jaws to take the fang of some envenomed snake? What wouldst thou shake with puny hand Mount Mandar? 501, towering o'er the land, put poison to thy lips and think the deadly cup a harmless drink. With pointed needle touch thine eye, a razor to thy tongue apply. Who wouldst pollute with impious touch the wife whom Rama loves so much? Be round thy neck a millstone tied, and swim the sea from side to side, or raising both thy hands on high pluck sun and moon from yonder sky, or let the kindled flame be pressed, wrapped in thy garment, to thy breast, more wild the thought that seeks to win Rama's dear wife who knows not sin. The fool who thinks with idle aim to gain the love of Rama's dame, with dark and desperate footing, makes his way o'er points of iron stakes. As ocean to a bubbling spring, the lion to a fox, the king of all the birds that ply the wing to an ignoble crow as gold to lead of little price, as to the drainings of the rice the drink they quaff in paradise, the amrit's heavenly flow, as sandal dust with perfume sweet is to the mire that soils our feet, a tiger to a cat, as the white swan is to the owl, the peacock to the waterfowl, an eagle to a bat, such is my lord compared with thee. And when with bow and arrows he, mighty as Indra's self, shall see his foeman, armed to slay, thou, death-doomed like the fly that sips the oil that on the altar drips, shalt cast the morsel from thy lips and lose thy half-won prey. Thus, in high scorn, the lady flung the biting arrows of her tongue in bitter words that pierced and stung the rover of the night. As she ceased, her gentle cheek grew pale, her loosened limbs began to fail, and like a plantain in the gale she trembled with affright. He terrible as death stood nigh, and watched with fierce, exulting eye the fear that shook her frame. To terrify the lady more, he counted all his triumphs o'er, proclaimed the titles that he bore, his pedigree and name. Canto 48. Rávan's speech. With knitted brow and furious eye, the stranger made his fierce reply. In me, O fairest dame, behold the brother of the king of gold. The lord of 10 necks my title, named Rav a letter 147, for might and valor famed. Gods and Gandharva hosts I scare, snakes, spirits, birds that roam the air fly from my coming, wild with fear trembling like men when death is near. I execute Rav a letter 147 once. My brother, wrought to ire, encountered me and fought, but yielding to superior might fled from his home in sore affright. Lord of the man-drawn chariot, still he dwells on famed Kailas's hill. I made the vanquished king resign the glorious car which now is mine. Pushpak, the far-renowned, that flies will-guided through the buxom skies. Celestial hosts by Indra led flee from my face disquieted, and where my dreaded feet appear the wind is hushed or breathless, is fear. Where'er I stand, where'er I go the troubled waters cease to flow. Each spellbound wave is mute and still, and the fierce sun himself is chill. Beyond the sea my Lanka stands filled with fierce forms and giant bands, a glorious city fair to see as Indra's Amaravati. A towering height of solid wall flashing afar surrounds it all, its golden courts enchant the sight, and gates aglow with lazulite. Steeds, elephants, and cars are there, and drums, loud music fills the air, fair trees in lovely gardens grow whose boughs with varied fruitage glow. Thou, beauteous queen, with me shalt dwell in halls that suit a princess well, thy former fellows shall forget nor think of women with regret. No earthly joy thy soul shall miss, and take its fill of heavenly bliss. Of mortal Rama think no more, whose terms of days will soon be o'er. King Dasaratha looked in scorn on Rama, though the eldest born, sent to the woods the weakling fool, and set his darling son to rule. What, O thou large-eyed dame, hast thou to do with fallen Rama now, from home and kingdom forced to fly, a wretched hermit soon to die? Accept thy lover, nor refuse the giant king who fondly woos. O listen, nor reject in scorn a heart by Kama's arrows torn. If thou refuse to hear my prayer, of grief and coming woe beware, for the sad fate will fall on thee which came on hapless Urvasi, when with her foot she chanced to touch pure Auravas and sorrowed much. 502 my little finger raised in fight were more than match for Rama's might. O fairest, blithe and happy be with him whom fortune sends to thee. Such were the words the giant said, and Sita's angry eyes were red. She answered in that lonely place the monarch of the giant race. Art thou the brother of the Lord of Gold by all the world adored, and sprung of that illustrious seed wouldst now attempt this evil deed? I tell thee, impious monarch, all the giants by thy sin will fall, whose reckless lord and king thou art, with foolish mind and lawless heart. Yea, one may hope to steal the wife of Indra, and escape with life. But he who Rama's dame would tear from his loved side, must needs despair. Yea, one may steal fair Sachi, dame of him who shoots the thunder flame, may live successful in his aim and length of day may see. But hope, O giant king, in vain, though cups of Amrit thou may drain, to shun the penalty and pain of wronging one like me. Canto 49. The Rape of Sítá.